This is by far the most fun I've had creating and playing a build so far. Enemies won't know what hit them when you come flying in on a Strand grapple like an absolute madman. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. This build revolves around the Strand grapple. Weave a grappling hook and quickly pull yourself forward. Grappling to a tangled immediately recharges your grenade energy. During and shortly after grappling, your melee attacks deal area damage and unravels targets. So there's two parts to this grapple. By utilizing the grapple, we're getting rid of our grenade completely, but it's going to allow us to do a significant amount of melee damage at the end of our grapple. And if we kill someone with the grapple and we have a tangle available, it'll create a tangle. And if you can't kill the enemy with the melee end of the grapple, that's okay, because you will unravel that enemy. So once you kill the enemy, it'll unravel into a tangled anyway. So either way, you're going to be able to create a tangled. To pair with this powered melee, we're using the Assassin's Cowl exotic helmet. Vanishing Execution. Powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shield. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. So if we're able to kill a target with our Strand grapple melee, it's going to turn us invisible and heal us. And we'll have multiple charges, so we will be able to kill people with this. And if you don't kill them, you get them really low and you can just finish them, which will turn you invisible. You can get the helmet from doing legendary lost sectors, the event on Neomuna, and there's also a Halloween event that'll be going on where you can target farm exotics. Now looking back into our abilities, we're using Gambler's Dodge. Whenever we dodge near enemies, it's going to fully recharge our melee ability, which the Threaded Spike is pretty good. You can get a kill with the Threaded Spike. It will proc Assassin's Cowl, so that's an extra benefit. So you can fly in on your grapple melee, do that melee damage, and if it doesn't kill them, you can throw your Threaded Spike, which should kill them and turn you invisible and heal you. But also you want to be using this because it severs targets, which if a target is severed, their outgoing damage is significantly reduced. So when you grapple in on enemies and you throw one of these, you'll be taking a lot less damage. But also if you kill a target who's severed, they'll unwind into a tangled when defeated. You can also catch this on the way back to get more melee energy back. For our aspects, we're using Widow Silk to have an additional grenade charge, as well as our grapple hook creates a grapple tangle at the grapple point. So as a lot of people say, you grapple to get grapple back, to grapple more so you can grapple. You can also grapple the tangleds to get your grapple back, or just grapple to these grapple points to get your grapple back. And for our other aspect, we're using Whirling Maelstrom. Destroying a tangled will create a Beyblade, and that Beyblade will seek out targets and deal damage over time, and it also emits unraveling projectiles when it defeats them. For your fragments, you want to use Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail, and we'll have lots of ways of creating Orbs of Power. Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, weapon final blows create a tangled. Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy, so if we ever run out of our grapple for some reason, we can just deal damage and it'll restore some grenade energy. And Thread of Propagation. Powered melee final blows grant your Strand weapon unraveling round, so that's going to work with our Threaded Spike and our grapple melee. Looking at our weapons, if you have a Sword Breaker, that is the best choice. It can roll with a few different perks that you might want to try out. 1-2 punch is really good, but most of the time you're flying in on your melee first, so shooting a target with every pellet in a shot and then increases your melee damage is good for the Threaded Spike, but not as good for your grapple melee because you're kind of coming in on the grapple melee first. If you can get one with Surrounded, that's probably the best because you can just grapple in and you'll be surrounded most of the time, which will give this weapon a damage increase. And the best part about this weapon is the Cursed Thrall origin trait. After defeating a target with a melee attack, final blows with this weapon cause targets to explode for a short duration, and you can increase this through the artifact. But worry not, if you can't get a Sword Breaker from the Crota's raid, then you can also utilize Until Its Return, which you can target farm or craft from Season of the Deep, and you can get things like Overflow and Trench Barrel for this one. Your other weapons aren't as important, and since we're grappling and meleeing a lot, you can use double shotguns if you'd like. And the Legend of Acreus is also pretty good because the Catalyst can give it Trench Barrel, so after a successful melee hit, this weapon gains increased damage. Now taking a look into our artifact, in that second row you can use the origin trait Specialization 1, which is going to improve the benefit of our Cursed Thrall origin trait and make the explosion area bigger, I believe. In the third column you can utilize origin perk Specialization 2, which is going to overcharge our weapon with the Cursed Thrall trait, so our shotgun will be overcharged whenever overcharge is allowed, as well as Thanatotic Tangles. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to generate a tangled. We have a million different ways to generate tangled, so anytime a tangle can be created, you're pretty much always going to be be creating one. In that fourth column, you can use Elemental Fury if you're going against champions. We'll take more damage from our abilities and elemental orbs when they're stunned, as well as refreshing pickups. Whenever we pick up an elemental orb or a tangled, it's going to grant energy for our least powered ability. In that last column, you can use elemental munitions. Combatant final blows with tangles or elemental orbs have a chance to spawn special or heavy ammo, and since Whirling Maelstrom is going to be tracking enemies, it just has a higher chance of dropping special ammo for us. That way our shotgun can always have ammo. And Monochromatic Maestro, healing elemental ability damage increases matching weapon damage, and elemental weapon damage increases matching ability damage 10% for 5 seconds. And since we're using a Strand shotgun and Strand subclass, this will pretty much always be active. Since we're grappling in on enemies, you should have high resilience, and your other stats are entirely up to you. As for our armor mods on our helmet, you should have some type of Strand siphon, and if you're using multiple elements, you can use like a dual siphon, which is one way to create orbs of power. Hands-on gain bonus super energy on melee kills, so our powered melee kill, our grapple melee, and our normal melee is going to generate us super energy. In your arms, you can use grenade kickstart, so whenever we use our grapple, it's going to give us grenade energy back. Heavy-handed, your powered melee final blows create orbs of power, which works on our grapple melee as well as our threaded spike. And focusing strike grants class ability energy when we cause damage with a melee attack. In your chest piece, you should have melee damage resist, just because we'll be right on top of the enemies most of the time. In our legs, we're going to be using Innervation, Recuperation, and Absolution. So whenever we pick up an orb of power, it's going to heal us, give us grenade energy back, and reduce all our ability cooldown. And in our class item, we're going to be using Powerful Attraction. So whenever we dodge, we're going to automatically collect all the nearby orbs of power. Also Reaper, after we dodge, our next weapon final blow will spawn an orb of power. And Bomber reduces our grenade energy when using our class ability. So dodging is going to give us a lot of benefit. This build is a lot of fun flying around and just blowing everything up with our Strand melee, and get out there and try it for yourself. Let me know what you think about it. That's all I got for this one, and as always, have an awesome day. Peace.